Good morning and welcome to the new edition of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. We used to say, King is dead, long live the king. And now Trump is not dead or gone. I mean, politically. But his credo lives on. Trumpism, to say, is not only living but thriving. And the so called coalition, the Democratic coalition of liberal media, high tech entrepreneurs, and denizens of the leafy suburbs offended by Trump, the inner city blacks, and the civil society activists who voted Biden are, in fact, a group that was bound by a certain interest, and that interest was Trump. Now, the Trump being gone, this group is going to disintegrate. And the fond hopes that Biden presidency, if it happens, restoring normal politics at home in the world, is absolutely misleading. Unless you look at a very small print, Trump's legacy and the main outcome of the US presidential election are very easy to miss. The presidential election that pitched thuggish, demagogic nationalism against amorphous, sentimental liberalism ended not in a knockout blow, but in a technical win, if it's still there, because the courts have to decide. And it was, if at all, a win, it is on points. Taking all the results, elections to the governor's positions, the seats in the Senate, House of Representatives, and the support for Trump, which exceeded all forecasts, shows one thing: why President Trump would live on, and why Biden, even if he goes to the White House, would be hamstrung from the contest. With the Senate majority, conservative Supreme Court stacked against any major change that he might be thinking about. As a matter of fact, nobody can deny that the Biden victory, if it's there, marks the deep cracks in the political community. And that crack, Trump in his haphazard way has showcased. The idea of putting a goody-goody man, not effective man, what an efficient man, who can resurrect the golden era of the liberal international, is a serious illusion. And this illusion is going to be suicidal for the Democrats, liberal demagogues, and others. As a matter of fact, now that Trump would not be there if the hopes of Biden materialize, then this nemesis, common nemesis of all the liberals, Black Lives Matter, and others, the disparate agenda with different agendas would not hold together. As a matter of fact, this collision, this combination was alive as long, or is alive, as long as Trump is there. With Trump gone, the glue binding them would be unglued and they will become separate. On the other hand, what's going to happen? The white blue collar workers who have lost out from the flight of the manufacturing overseas in the times of Clinton and Obama, and a section of evangelical Christians who feel menaced by the radical ideas, gay marriages, LGBT rights, form an enduring permanent constituency that Trump is going to leave behind. And that would never be a part of the liberal establishment. It remains receptive, loyal to Trump credo, and it would not fade away. Let's be very clear. And that's a huge number. 70 million people voted for Trump. Now, Trump's legacy is complex. And the most important of that is what I shall call Trumpism. And what is Trumpism? It's not what people deem it to be. The reality is that Trumpism is a movement consisting of ideas, people, and anger that Donald Trump embodied. And it's the ideas that move the world. It's not for people. And this credo, the anger, the angst, will outlive Trump's presidency this year or after 4 years. It will become a part of global life. Trumpism is more an attitude than a coherent philosophy. It's not a coherent philosophy. If somebody wants to write a book on that, they can write anything, but the reality is that it's more a mindset. It's an attitude. It's an inclination. It's a thought process. And thought processes are inherent in the human beings. They are not subject to opinion polls, others. It's unlike Reagan and Thatcher, whose ideas, whose isms contained a core philosophy. No. Here's a major difference that all the political pundits are not realizing. He did not give a core philosophy. And there was a no projection of a worldview which was projected by Reagan or Thatcher based on the Cold War. But what's more important, it was connection with the people, with those people. Which people? The invisible people. The people who are disconnected with the political establishment, the real have-nots, the people who are on the margin, but the people who matter. And that's why I call them the invisible men. The invisible men and women had a deep connectivity with Trump when they went for the food stamps and they saw the immigrants being pampered, living on welfare. Then they said, what the hell? We have been toiling, working hard, and these people, Johnny from nowhere, jump in and have all the fruits of their labor. So, what Trump was saying was in consonance with the thoughts of the people. And this connectivity of Trump with a huge group of invisible people is not a part of philosophy. It's more a connectivity, as I said. So his was a powerful appeal to the Americans who had forgotten the establishment because establishment had forgotten them, but that forgetting created a distrust, an anger, and a sense of resentment. And these people are going to be a part of the political furniture of the country. These are the only ones when his transgressions were not an issue. They didn't care whether he had sexual escapades or not. They didn't bother about it. But they bothered that this man is going to bring the jobs back. This man is reducing the unemployment. They took him seriously, not literally. While on the other side, the establishment took his cloning literally. They call it cloning. They call it a fool. And in that connection, I happened to read something in Economist, which I'll share with you one of the days separately. So, what was transgressions for the establishment, for the liberals, for neoliberals, and all that ilk were not relevant to these invisible people. And then, seen from this angle, the topsy turvy 4 years were not an aberration, a surreal interlude as is being projected by the media and the political pundits. People think that politics will get back to normal shape, their normal, and that is two party politics on predictable lines. No, that is a dream, that's a mirage, that's not going to happen. The angry native conservative movement that Trump champions sees echoes of this trend all over the world. Now, see, that's what I'm coming to. Forget America, it's global. The first example of this was in England when Brexit was talked about. Then Le Pen in France, Erdogan in Turkey, Modi in India, Sui in Myanmar, and so on. And these people, whether they are Brexiteers in England or Le Pen, they continue to be a radical force all over the world. So Trump's credo is being replicated all over. Hungary has come up absolutely under the conservative movement. And this would continue to invade the somnolent middle class, which has sustained the bipartisan consensus of the American politics. And that is what is going to live on. Now, Trump's America, while undermining the Western alliance, had nevertheless a full force to bear against the aggrandizement of China. A Biden presidency might seek accommodation with China. You would say, he will not oppose China with a force quad, which was established through the efforts of Trump, combination of Japan, Australia, India, Philippines, aided by Israel and South Africa. That would continue. But might become toothless because the patronage of USA would not be there. So Biden may be willing to strike, but is unafraid to wound. And that would let the international rogue states have their way. Pakistan and Turkey are very happy. Chinese will possibly have the last laugh. Now, what are the implications for India? The left wing of the Democrats are likely to raise issues with some of the core policies of the Modi government. With regard to Kashmir, Indian Muslims, CA. The Chinese Pakistani axis might be emboldened through the diversion of the American interest away from South Asia. Under these circumstances, the concept of saying US India ties are based on mutually bipartisan and strong footing is rubbish. The best way would be for India to move on its own, taking help of that. And I remember I was at a march past of Rajputana rifles. And the motto of that Rajputana rifle is excellent. The brave shall inherit the world. And Trump embodied the brave people. Let's not forget it. He would say, okay, if you have a nuclear button, have a bigger button. And I would not hesitate in destroying you. That bluster worked even with North Korea. So that was Rajputana rifles. Veer Bhogya Vasundra. The brave shall inhabit earth. Exemplified by Trump lives on. Now the point is that is Trump only effective in USA? No, as I said earlier, it has taken much deeper roots. The heavy turnover of the American society this 2020 elections has reinforced the American populism. And it's possible it might take an aggressive turn. This should come as a wake-up call to those who predict end-of-life cycle for Trump's credo in USA, notwithstanding its failure to deliver at many things. This phenomenon is not over, and it's true all for all the globe, as I said. Now, since the rise of current national populism predates Trump, he only solidified it. And his holding sway in the words the greatest power has given an impetus to that, with Brexit and Le Pen and others. Brazil, Philippines, India, Turkey, Hungary, these are the prominent nations globally which go by the credo Trump preached and lived by. The surge in the right wing nationalism in France, Germany, Italy, and some Eastern countries is a clear indicator of that. And reasons are the economic downturn, rising unemployment, and fear of growing immigrant population who are often at a cultural deviance and do not observe the law and order of the host country. So they are reinforcing Trump's credo, which you can call right-wing nationalist movement in these. Now, whether it's National Rally, formerly called the National Front in France, whether it's League in Italy, whether it's Party for Freedom and Forum for Democracy in Netherlands, whether it's Freedom Party of Austria, whether UK Independence Party or BJP in India. All these are clear indicators of the strong roots that Trumpism has. And for populist leaders around the globe, Trump was a source of inspiration, and many of them imitated his style too. The rise of, they say, neo-Nazism in Western Europe is a symptom of this credo going to the extreme. As a matter of fact, Trump was the balancing factor, and is. He held those ultra-right neo-Nazi policies in check. You see, what is really should be worrisome is that Trump's credo doesn't go out of the bounds in other countries. There's a notable increase in virulent nationalism. America First is something relevant, and he was very correct. Every national leader should do that. And what's wrong with being anti-immigrant? I'm an immigrant, but I would still say that immigrants, in fact, disturb the natural ecology of that country. So, what we have got to see is that Trump's impact, seen globally and visible in these elections, show that his radical nationalist ideology is alive and has impacted the whole world. His narrow defeat, if it happens ultimately, may embolden the global conservative and national populist movement still more. They'll say, okay, this man, despite doing all good, was removed by this unholy collision. So we had better tackle that collision. This is a wake up call, as a matter of fact, to the Democrats and to the neoliberals all over the globe, because the possibility of bridging the divide would not be there. Rather, it will intensify the need of Trumpism in states and across the globe. And you would find the change in the foreign policy in the near future is certainly not going to unite the polarized nation and the disrupted global order. Trump may be going, but Trumpism survives, thrives, and is ascendant that nobody can deny. Thank you.